Hello, everybody. Now I'm on. How are you all doing? It is December 28th, 2020, the last live Q&A of 2020. I hope you're all having a good time, good holidays. I know they're not what everyone expected them to be, but hopefully you are having a good time nonetheless. This is a Q&A where I just answer questions and we talk about all sorts of things. Whatever you might want to talk about, ask questions and I'll answer them to the best of my ability. A lot of board game, we just did all our top 10s of the year, a lot of end of year stuff, and now moving back into full-blown reviewing mode. I just reviewed a game just a bit ago that's going to go up tomorrow. And then I got the games for Wednesday that are going next. And so plenty of stuff to do. Meanwhile, we're gearing up for our Kickstarter launch on January 12th. So, let's see. Tom, I got Super Skill Pinball for Christmas. How would you rank the different boards in the game? I don't know. I think I like the... I don't know how I'd rank them all. It depends what mood I'm in. I'll play any of the four of them. The fantasy one, I think, is my favorite. That's one where you can level up, I believe. So that would be my favorite one. What did I get for Christmas? Well, my daughter gave me a copy of Monopoly. Ha. I got some T-shirts. I got some candles, some scented candles. I got a picture of me and my wife, which was very impressive. I really was happy with that one. My daughter... and my wife, like on Monday, she was like, hey, I want to take some pictures of you. And I was like, all right. So we were outside. It was Sunday. It was right after church. And so we took some pictures together. And I was like, all right, my daughter's always taking pictures. And that was one of my Christmas presents. That picture blown up in a frame. I was very impressed with them pulling that one off. I got some socks. So things like that. Star Wars socks, of course. Yeah, it was good. It was fine. I don't really need a lot for Christmas or anything, really, so having a good time. Why did one-upmanship not appear in my top 10 most hated games list? Because I don't hate it as much as it just was not a game. Also, it's not really sold anywhere or ever, so it was kind of pointless to just keep talking about it. Do I still play Slay the Spire? Not recently. I tend to go hot and cold on games, and so right now my hot game is probably Hearthstone. Playing a lot of Hearthstone. Any games for 2020 you'd like to see an expansion for in 2021? Just Marvel United. The rest, I don't care if they have an expansion or not. I either liked them or didn't. What event happened in your life resulting in your dislike of cats? What? Cats are just cats. That's nothing to do with any kind of event. Let's see here. Did I get the Anachrony Infinity box with all the upgrade bits and everything? I did not. I don't know if I will or not, actually. Are there any new iOS apps which you'll be reviewing? I will be reviewing the Terraforming Mars Prelude expansion this week. That's new. What are the best bits, box, and bits containers you've found for your games? Honestly, and I know this is self-serving, but they're the ones that we had in our Kickstarter. Those little plastic boxes that we had made custom for the Dice Tower are amazing. And I mean that in the sense that I use them in all my games. I have thousands of them that are in use right now. What style game do you think would best suit a Mandalorian board game? Probably. I have not played it yet. Star Wars Outer Rim, that's what everyone says. So a game like that, I'm assuming. Have I read anything interesting on Hoopla lately? I've been reading nothing on Hoopla lately because I've been reading actual books instead. I go hot and cold on that sort of thing too. What's my opinion on Wonder Woman 84? So we watched it on Christmas Day. I fell asleep in the first half for about, 15 minutes maybe. I was just really tired. I had spent all morning cooking the Christmas meal and everything. And so then my kids laughed at me because I apparently started snoring. So then I woke up and I was pretty much awake the rest of it. It was fine. I didn't hate it like a lot of people seem to hate it. I didn't love it either. It was fine. I don't know. I mean, I thought I liked the bad guys' motivations in this one. They seemed like they made more sense. At least one of them did. I don't know. It's a movie I'll probably never watch again. So I don't know. Let's see here. Will you be getting pizza today? No, I don't think so. We have leftovers galore. We need to go through those leftovers before we have pizza. Do you have any funny stories about the days when Dice Tower was first starting? No, I mean, it's funny, when I look back at the things that happened. I know when it first started, me and Joe recorded the Dice Tower in the back of our church in Korea. And in the summer, it was extremely hot, and in the winter, it was really cold. So there was this big heater there that heated the auditorium, and we didn't want to waste the heat, but we also didn't want to die. And it was also really loud. So we would run this heater, warm up the section, we'd turn off the heater, and we would start recording. And we record as much as we could until we were too cold, we couldn't handle it anymore. Then we would pause recording and run the heater again. For review purposes, I don't know if I can think of anything funny. Maybe. Do you have any fears like heights, spiders, Uno tournaments, etc.? Like actually crippling fear? I don't know. Like I hate bugs, spiders, and cockroaches. But like when I see one, I'm not afraid of it. Like if it's crawling across the table to me, I'll bolt the other direction. But if you told me I'd get $20 if I didn't, I would sit still because I want the $20. Heights, I don't really like heights, but I'm not necessarily scared of them either. Did you play anything fun with your family over the holiday? Oh, well, yeah, sure. Come back tomorrow for my review. It's a good one. As a newcomer to hobby, is there any way to anticipate what games will go out of print? I wanted to buy Ravine, but it's not available. No, there's no way to anticipate it. You can just guess. I just wouldn't worry about it. If a game goes out of print, then you can either get a used copy for usually a fairly reasonable price, and if you can't, then that means either it will come back in print, or you can just go out and buy one of the other 10,000 good games that are out there. There's so many good games. Board Game Geek, people sell used copies of games all the time. That's a good place to find games. Did you watch Soul? I did not. I'm hoping to watch it tonight, actually. What game did you spend the most hours playing in 2020? I guess Slay the Spire? I know that people won't say that counts. So if it's a board game, then it would be Etherfields. Will you consider remaking some old reviews for your explanations and thoughts for some of the most important games? I've thought of that and redoing some of those older reviews since they're not really good quality. Maybe. But there's no rush to do that when I have so many good games to review. Oh, you do watch a few of these and they feel a bit outdated, could use an update. Oh, I don't disagree on that, but I don't know how I could keep up with, constantly doing that. We'll see. What made you realize that Dice Tower could actually be a job rather than a pastime? There was nothing that made me realize it. It was this long thing. I would daydream about it like, oh, I wish I could do Dice Tower full time. And a little bit of money showed up, and I thought, ooh, that'd be neat. I remember when I first turned on ads in YouTube, and I got like $1 in one day, and I was like, today I made $1. Wow, $1. I think I got like the first month I got 80 cents. You can't live on 80 cents a month. You can't even live on $1 a day. And when it got to like $20 a day, I thought, that is not a terrible thing. It's a part-time income, $600 a month. But it's still not enough. So then I started brainstorming slowly. I'm like, well, what other ways could I, what other things could I do to make money? The idea of Kickstarter never even occurred to me. My first thoughts were, I was just thought, I'll work any way I can. I'll do any kind of odd jobs and that sort of thing. And when the Kickstarter idea came up, it was like a light turned on, and I was like, oh, well, maybe that's a way to do it. I'm making pumpkin rolls for breakfast right now. Would you like one? I would not. I'm actually not a huge pumpkin person. I don't dislike it, but I don't really care if I have it or not either. I never pick it as a flavor. What type of game is the easiest for you to turn off your review brain? None. I am always thinking about reviewing a game, even if I've already played it 20 times. I think about what I'm going to say about it next time I talk about it. I just can't do it. What's your favorite thing to drink when playing games? Water. You can tell when Kickstarters are getting delivered because there's a whole slate of previous Kickstarters being sold to make room. That's the truth of it. Hey, won't you review any of the new Aliens games? Well, I'll tell you what. The Aliens Bug Hunt I'm going to review. That new one, though, I opened it up and there were sprues. Get out of here. Roy's like, I could put the sprues together. I'm like, yeah, I guess you could. But I was annoyed about that for a couple of reasons. One, I think sprues in this day and age for a board game are ridiculous. Come on now. And I know there's all the arguments that miniatures are better when you put them together and everything. And bah humbug balderdash. When I got companies like Awakened Realms and Come On, and so many of these games, I'm looking at my shelves. I have all these games, Mythic games. All these people are making these great miniatures without sprues. And you might say they're not quite as good. Nobody except the super strong miniature cares if they're quite as good, because these other ones look fantastic. But what I do care about is having to put miniatures together. Even more egregious with this new Aliens game, it doesn't mention that you have to put the stuff together in the box. Someone said that in YouTube comments, and then someone responded and said, well, it doesn't say you don't have to put them together. And I thought, what a weird thing to say. You also don't have to put together the board and paste up the cards. I assume that if the assembly is required for a game, it says so in the box. So both those things just put a really bad taste in my mouth. I mean, I might do it. Then you couple that together with the fact that I don't care about Aliens theme at all. So they may get reviewed, but you'll have to wait and see. Anything good come out of COVID and lockdowns for the Dice Tower? Well, I mean, there's good comes from everything, in my opinion. And so, I mean, it made us a really strong unit. We really communicate a lot together. And we were able to do some things that we might not have done otherwise. It pushed us to work harder in streaming remotely, which we may use for other things in the future. If you were building a team of X-Men, like X-Men Gold or X-Men Blue team, who would you put on that team? Ooh, that's a good question. So, like, if I was going to put together a group of X-Men and that was my team, well, I take Iceman. I like Iceman a lot, just for morale purposes, and I like his powers too. Kitty Pryde, Shadowcat. Who else would I want on that team? Maybe X-23. No. I mean, okay. So I got Iceman and Shadowcat. Cannonball, probably. I like the way Cannonball and Iceman work together. I need a powerhouse on the team, someone with strength. Colossus is the easy choice there. I don't think I'd want Colossus, though. Morph for sure. and blink if I'm allowed to have blink. So for the strength, fighting ability, I'll take a good version of Juggernaut. Juggernaut was on the X-Men for a while. All right. Do you ever watch teachers or have someone teach you heavier games? Or do you prefer to learn them yourself? I prefer to learn them myself, but I have watched a few teachers in the past. Not many, but some. Now that board gaming is more mainstream, do you get recognized in public as being part of the main crusaders of the hobby? Not very often. Very rarely does that happen. What has changed in the past 5 years regarding the gaming industry that you think is the most positive? Well, I think a more inclusive nature, especially we have a lot more women in the hobby. Elizabeth Hargrave has designed the most popular board game of last year. More people in board gaming media, diversity just across the board. Let me see. Anyone have a link to the latest Kickstarter for Dice Tower? Are there late pledges? Well, I would ask, if you're interested, and I appreciate it, I would just ask you to wait. We're going to be launching really, really soon. There's no real late pledges now, that I know of. You could email Kenny at dicetower.com. He might be able to slide you in, but highly doubtful since everything is being sent out. But we'll have a way for you to get the stuff later. As far as the average review video goes, what's the full production approximate time? It's so different that I couldn't even give it to you. I mean, we're including playing the game, thinking about the game and how you're going to review it, setting up. It can be anywhere from many, many hours to just a few hours. But it all depends on the game. I got the board game challenge poster from your last Kickstarter. Is anyone in the office doing a challenge poster? Well, I'm gonna scratch off everything, whether I've done it or not, because I just want to see what all this stuff is. So we just got our Kickstarter stuff in from our own Kickstarter. It just showed up a couple days ago. Do you have a favorite BattleTech mech? I do, actually. I really like the Atlas. I don't know why. It's like a big, giant, slow, clunky mech. But there's something I like about it. Maybe that's probably my favorite. I don't know why. I just like it. When do you start removing your Christmas decorations? The day after, or New Year's Day is when they come down. It's just tradition. They go up Black Friday, come down New Year's Day. Seeing all the marble races and considering you live in Florida, have you ever considered a race on a track built on a sandy beach? No, not really. You would be surprised how little I've gone to the beach here. I like the inside. Air conditioning here. It's great. What are sprues? Sprues are the plastic pieces. Actually, cardboard can be called sprues too. But they're plastic outsides where you twist off different pieces of the miniature and then glue them together. If you've ever built a model car or model airplane, that's what they're called. So it's a sprue is that outside stuff that you throw away. You have to twist them all first, and the really fun ones are they're connected on two sides. You have to kind of twist it at a weird angle. Then when it comes off, then you got to trim it off with a knife so there's that little bit of flash, it's called, on the miniature itself. Then you take the glue and you glue them together. And then when your fingers are stuck together with the super glue and you're like, and you try to pull those apart. It's a pain in the neck. And some people love it. And glory be to those people. But some people, like myself, don't enjoy it at all. Like that was one of my biggest problems I played Warhammer 40K was I found that was pretty much a requirement. You had to like building and painting models. I just wanted to play the game, but apparently not legal. And I think that's actually one of the detriments to the hobby, right? That's why I think I like board gaming a lot more because you could open up a board game box and you're ready to go. Yeah, you might have to punch out cardboard. That's not hard. But with miniatures, you had to assemble the miniatures. And when I said I didn't really care for that part, I was like looked down on, frowned upon. People are like, you don't like the miniature part? I'm like, no, I just like the game. The game is what intrigued me. But apparently that's not good enough, which is one of the reasons I switched over to board gaming. I was looking forward to crowd surfing to hear your thoughts on the ISS Vanguard. Then you did not watch crowd surfing 2 weeks ago. We definitely talked about it there. Go back and check it out. Any tips on politely getting people to stop bending your cards? I just say, could you please stop bending my cards? You just got to be straightforward about it. People don't know that they're doing it. Quick suggestion for a grandparent wants something new to replace Quirkle, Azul. Someone said they watched Dice Tower, and someone said that a Scythe battle type game was coming out. Is this true or misheard? I don't know what we're talking about. I don't remember saying anything about it. I mean, there's always new games of that style coming out. Maybe I said something seemed like Scythe, but I don't know what. That's true, and I'm not. Someone said that this year's award ceremony was better. I was really happy with how our award ceremony came across this year, Dice Tower Awards. I had already been toying with the idea. Before we had done this year, I thought we might do the awards online rather than do them at Dice Tower Con. It's one of the reasons they're fun to do at Dice Tower Con, but one of the reasons we didn't do them, and I wanted to get away from doing it, is because I wanted to actually go to the con. And all I was doing at the con was events. It was so much work that we weren't actually enjoying the con. And so I thought about doing it online, and this year just cemented it that it worked better that way anyway. Have I read the Fablehaven books? I don't believe so. Fablehaven books. No. I have not. I heard you're a Stormlight Archive fan. Have you read Dawn Shard yet? Of course. If you're gonna read a book, you're gonna read that stuff. How about we just put the board game industry new games on hold for a few months until we're able to get together in person? I got a stack of games I haven't been able to play. Let us catch up. Well, then do that. That's not on the board. That's not the board games industry fault that you keep buying new games, right? That's you. You don't have to buy games. I mean, I've met people who said they'd taken a break from getting new games for a year. Had nothing to do with COVID or anything. They just did it. And that's fantastic. You don't have to keep buying new games. You can keep playing the old, fantastic, wonderful games. Is there a game that does time travel well? Not particularly. There's some games that do time travel a little bit like Anachrony, but it's really kind of not really time travel. So it's just a difficult thing to do well. How did you manage to play this many games this year with people during the pandemic? Can you play games with people in person in the U.S.? Well, I'd be really, really angry if someone told me that I couldn't play games with my kids. That seems like that would be harsh and judgmental. I mean, my kids, they love. I mean, we just played games every day this past week. I would be really upset if I wasn't allowed to do that. Is that what's happening where you're at, where they don't let you even play games with your family? If so, I'm sorry. That seems a bit draconian. All right, I'm going to jump on Scott here, and no offense to Scott, but Scott says he got money burning a hole in his pocket. If you could buy just 3 games from this year, what would they be? I don't know, Scott. That's you. I just got several emails over the weekend. I've emailed people back, and I feel bad about saying this, but I got we're gonna redo the FAQ this year for the Dice Tower, and this is one of the questions on it where it basically says, "What game should I get next?" People say, and the answer is, "I don't know. I'm not you." And people always ask me, and they're like, "Well, can you help me out here?" Well, yeah, I can help you out, and that is why we've done so many reviews, so many top 10s. Like I literally did my top 10 games this year, which if you think, what 3 games would I buy? It would be my 1, 2, and 3, right? That's what that's for. All the information's there. But just because it's in my top 10, just because I give it a 10 out of 10 or a 1 out of 10 doesn't mean you will like it or hate it, respectively. I don't know you. But what we can do is we can give you all that information, give you our opinions, show you all that stuff, and then you can look at that and go, that's what I want. But I can't pick stuff for people, nor do I want to. Because if I do, then those people, that's too much pressure on me. My thing is to say, I love this one. I like this one. This one was okay. This one's bad. This one's terrible. And if you say, well, I saw the terrible one, but it still looked interesting and I bought it and you like it, wonderful. But I will not say this is the one you should get. I might do that to a close personal friend who I've known for years or I know really well. But that is the extent of what I will do as for being a personal shopper of sorts. Aren't you glad you started hitting the live content hard well before the pandemic? Well, sure, to some degree. But we really leaned into it when the pandemic started, and we learned a lot. But it was good. The X-Men team made me wonder, did you ever read the Exiles comic series? Well, I did mention Morph and Blink, right? If not, yes, it's one of my favorite comic series also. I liked Exiles a lot. Exiles was a nice way for them to do a little bit of what-ifs and also include it in the main universe. That's a good one. I was thinking Azul as well. They like one that can be played while watching TV. No. Boo. I would never recommend playing a game watching TV. I just wouldn't do it. If I'm playing a game with my kids and they're like watching TV at the same time, I'm like, look, watch TV or play games, but we're not doing both because they're just not going to give their full attention to the game, at least for me. I don't care if we talk or whatever else, we're having a good time playing the game, but I want you to be kind of focused on the game, and you just can't do that when you're watching TV. Maybe you say, well, I can do it. That's great. But I still probably wouldn't want to game with you if you were watching TV at the same time. Will you have any of your Kickstarter promos left over from this year available next year? Possibly. Every year, my friends and I discuss a personal theme for the upcoming year. Any thoughts on yours? I don't understand it at all. A theme for what? Your house? You? Your clothing? I don't understand it. Can you give me an example? What Disney plus Marvel show are you most looking forward to? I think actually the What If show, just because I like What If comics a lot. Would you rather a day with a few good friends playing something longer or heavier that you know it takes all day to play, or a day playing gateway games with people who know nothing about games? I'm happy with both. I don't know if that I would pick one over the other. Do you ever war game? Warhammer, War Machine, Malifaux, etc. I find it interesting that you call that war gaming. I call that miniatures gaming, but it's interesting that you say that because like a war gamer, somebody who likes heavier war games will probably not consider those to be war games. Maybe they would, I don't know. The one I've played the most of my life has been Warhammer 40,000. Oh, yeah, someone said, oh, that timing, he's kind of answering me, yeah. And a million miniature hobbyists just screaming in pain, thinking about twisting off the models. Yeah, but sure, that's the thing, though. This is one of the things that bugs me about that. How are you supposed to do it? I know that they make these tools where you can cut them right off. I own one of these tools for that very reason. So I'm not a cretin, okay? But I'm a kid. I buy the game. I'm excited about it. I get them out. How are you supposed to get them off? Well, you could cut them off with an X-Acto knife. That's a bit tricky. Or you can twist them off, which is what a lot of people did. And again, I would just rather the company make a machine that just doesn't make me do all that stuff. That's me. And a million miniature hobbyists. Yeah, don't flatter yourself. There's not that many people doing it. But I mean, I get it. I get that people really like doing that sort of thing. But that's snobbery, and don't get me wrong, snobbery is in the hobby in many different places. But the snobbery from miniature gamers is what chased me away from the hobby. So that was one of many things. But it blew my mind. I remember I got second place in a Warhammer tournament, and I got first place in attitude. There was some like good sportsmanship category or something. I got first place in that. And because of that, and the fact that I won a game or two, combined got me second place, which really annoyed my friend, who you all have met. But what was my good sportsmanship? Was it because I was just that good? No, I was just polite to people I met. I wasn't doing anything special. It was just that was a rarity. And when it was over, I'll never forget, I had made an army that did pretty well. It won 2 of the 3 matches I was in. The third match, I got massacred. So I was like, oh, this is a cool army that I came up with. It was my own idea. I was like, oh, this is a neat army. I went and posted it on the Daka forums, and immediately, post after post telling me, this army's broken. You shouldn't play this way. This is bad. Bad. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. I was just excited about this army. That it came in second place. I was excited to get second place. And then people criticizing how my models looked, criticizing how I painted them, and I thought, why am I in this hobby? To get any kind of, affirmation in the miniatures hobby, you needed to be able to paint and model well, and or you needed to be good in the hobby, like a good game player, to win. Losers, not welcome. Next. And that's why I moved to board gaming. Now, again, not everyone's like that in miniature hobby. I'm not, of course, not everyone's like that in everywhere. And this was also back in this was the year 2000, right? So it was 20 years ago. And it might have just been that Warhammer group that I was part of. But I met some nice people, and I had some good times, and I enjoyed the game. And Games Workshop is a fine company, make nice stuff, but I just didn't enjoy that. I found that whole thing to be stressful. I just wanted to play and have fun, and it seemed like everyone else that playing and have fun was a very secondary thing to that. So when I went to Korea, and I was like, well, I took all my Warhammer 40 stuff with me, or one of my armies with me, and then I had the rest shipped to me. And I thought, well, I need to find people, but I couldn't find anybody. The language barrier. And I knew a couple people. We played a couple games, and I was like, man, this game is not as fun as I remember it being. And then I said, well, I know I like board games, and I wanted to do something with my wife and other people who were not interested in Warhammer 40K. I started buying board games, and like 2 weeks after that, I was like, I'm selling everything from 40K. I'm getting rid of all of it. Board games were so much more fun for me. And that's my personal story. Yeah, obviously, there's difference of opinions. Thank you, Ignacio. I enjoy the initial setup of a game I just bought almost as much as the playing. Punching, sleeving, organizing, building the folded token or whatever. That's fine. And again, some people like that, but I like the playing the best. Tom, I recall seeing a Gundam model in some of your reviews. How did you power through building that? You're right, because I thought my daughter might like modeling, so we built it together. And I can tell you how we built that. I didn't. We built it together. But what I did was I said, I cut all the stuff off the sprues very carefully. And then I gave the pieces to my daughter and I said, this is what we need to do next. And then she put it together. And so we worked together as a team, but she did the part I most disliked. And I would argue that that time we spent together way superseded any nonsense that I don't like building models. That time was great. And I bought a second one for us to do, and that's still sitting on my shelf a year and a half later. Lucas just subscribed. Thanks. Oh, what a great day. There is a game that has the exact same art style side. Oh, that would be, well, someone just mentioned that. I just saw it up here. Red Outpost. Yes, Red Outpost. Any Werewolf games for me soon? I know. I've delayed on that. I'm working on it, but there are other really important things to do, like there's just so much stuff that has hit me from a financial standpoint, and my daughter getting married next Thursday, not next Saturday, really threw a wrench in everything. And I know it's a sad excuse, I suppose, but there's just so much involved with my daughter getting married and that changing my whole schedule around. So forgive me on that one. Once my daughter's married, we'll hopefully get back a little bit to normal. Am I still keeping up the Why I Love series? Not right now. That was a series I did at that point in time. I'll probably do it again in the future. Do you ever get intimidated by complex game rules? Yes. Does it get easier to learn game rules the more you do it? Yes. Best Trek character trying to understand humanity, 7 of 9, or Data? Probably Data. How's the Spider-Man video game going? Well, I'm actually playing Phoenix. So that one is taking up all my time. My daughter's playing through the Spider-Man game. I never played a Pandemic game, and Legacy Season 1 is the most interesting to me. Would I miss anything by skipping the original? Not at all. And in fact, Pandemic Legacy Season 1, you literally play base Pandemic before you even start the game, so you're fine. Where can I join a Werewolf game with you? Dice Tower Facebook, Dice Tower Werewolf Facebook group. There's a lot of people there, and all I did was push the ball a little bit down the hill. Now there are games being played all the time. Does Dice Tower own or rent the studio? We rent it. Are you watching the Clone Wars in the correct order or just how they're listed on Disney+? That sounds like a super fan thing. I've only watched one episode, so I don't know that we could even say I'm watching them in any order at all. Let's see here. Rafa didn't say family. He said people. Like, are you allowed to have people over, if any? You don't consider family people? That's very rude. My family's people. It's also really beneficial to have such a large cadre of children. We can play lots of different games. My wife enjoys games. She doesn't play as much with me as my kids do, though. Will you do more series showcasing older games besides Look Back? Isn't that a showcase? I understand that as reviewers, you need to feature all the new games, but this leads to older games tend to get forgotten and overlooked. Yes, okay. And this happens all the time. People are like, you should talk about older games. You're right. It's good to talk about older games. Happily, we do that all the time. It's called our top 10s. Our top 10s consistently go back and reference older games. You say, well, I mean something else that kind of just picks at an older game. So you're saying grab an older game, do like a re-review of it. Well, let me explain. There's two problems with that. One, well, there's three problems with that, but the first two are tied together. One is it's going to get way less views. I don't care if you say lots of people like it. That's simply not true. Unless it's a really, really popular game like Settlers of Catan or Ticket to Ride, older games are going to get you way less reviews than new games. That's just the way it is. And it's not that we're doing this for views per se, but we want to do content that people want. And anytime someone's like, I would love to watch older stuff, and I'll do an older review, and they went, well, not that game, a different one. And I've done some of these older things, and they don't get a ton. Secondly, let's say I do an older game, I'm like, this game is amazing. And you're like, I want it. Where can I buy it? Oh, it's out of print. Or it's hard to get in stores right now. There's a lot of problems with doing that sort of thing. It's interesting, and it's nice, but nostalgia only works after a long time. Have you had time to try other hobbies like fishing or scuba diving? I fished as a kid. Scuba diving, no. I just haven't chosen to do it. I don't do a lot of hobbies. I mean, I play video games on the side. I'm cooking now. I guess that's more of a hobby of mine. I'm working at, I cook once every week about. And I try to do some fancy meal or some recipe I found on the internet. And I just have a great time with that. I really like doing it. So that would, I guess, be my hobby. Are you considering doing any videos in your studio setup and or software used to produce the show? We've definitely done that. If you search for Hawaii, it was when I did a review of Hawaii. I did a whole background on how I did it. Do you have any tips if someone in the group touts or brags about how they know the game too well and will tell you tips about it, but only after the game? So someone like they come in and they're like, hey, I'm really good at this game. I know the secret. I'll tell you afterwards. I'd say, okay. And then we play the game. If they won, maybe. But if they won, I would just watch how they played, I suppose. And if they lost, then I don't care what their tips were. I was super surprised to see you like Etherfields. I know it's been super divisive. I don't know if it's super divisive. A lot of people like it. Is this case being themed so good it overwhelms any issues, or are you not finding it as fiddly as other folks? No, I did my review. I mentioned that there was fiddliness in it. I mentioned there were some things in it that I didn't like as much as other stuff. But overall, I really enjoyed the game. We just played it live here in the studio during the Winter Spectacular, and it was really fun. We had a really fun game of it. Can we ask questions in the YouTube chat here? Yes. What are my main gripes about game inserts? I just don't like, well, my biggest gripe about game inserts is when I don't know how to put the game in the game insert and they just assume you'll figure it out. That's a real pain in the neck. At least show me where everything is supposed to go. Especially if you build some funky shapes. I'm like, well, how am I supposed to put this in here? Well, tell me. I still remember Earth Reborn when that came out. It was one of the first games that had this problem. And people went online and they're like, where is it? And the designer was like, that's a game. You get to figure it out. And I just wanted to smack that designer. Why on earth? I didn't buy a puzzle. I bought a game. Fortunately, someone took a picture of it online. And I was like, oh, okay, that's how everything fits in. So, yeah, that's what I would want. A personal theme. Okay, this is back to the theme question, such as gratitude, connection, health, or more creativity. Yeah, I don't know that I understand this still. I mean, it just sounds like you're making a New Year's resolution and you're calling it a theme. You know, like, oh, I'm going to be more, have more gratitude or whatever. But then that would just be like a New Year's resolution. I want to be more thankful this year. If that's the case, then no, I don't do that. I I mean, I don't do that at New Year's Eve. I have said I'm going to strive to do this differently in my life. I've done it at many points. I just find that it seems odd that you started on January 1st. I'll start it on whatever. When I think of it, I'm like, I'll do it this week. That seems like a good time to do it. What's the most frustrated you've been teaching a game? um, well, there's a lot of different times. I really don't like teaching a game to someone who clearly doesn't listen to the explanation. It's very frustrating. I'm also really frustrated when I'm teaching a game and someone else at the table knows the game really well, is a horrible teacher, and feels the need to help. They're like worse than a backseat driver. I'll say, all right, so in this game, you're going to be scoring points over here, and on your turn, you're going to have 4 different actions. And they go, oh, yeah, and just so you know, when you take this action, you better not, waken the dragon. I'm like, what? Hang on, we're not, and people are like, whoa, what? Where's a dragon? Well, in this deck, there's a dragon as one of the cards. So you need to be careful of that. I'm like, look, I haven't even explained the main actions yet. Can we get back to that? Oh yeah, but he mentioned the dragon. The backseat rules explainer, who's also really bad. And that has happened to me multiple times. I presume you can't review older stuff, but wondered if anything has ever caused you to revisit older stuff. Well, yeah, actually, I am going to be reviewing some older things. In fact, I have a game right over there that I'm going to be reviewing in a week or a couple weeks, because I want to get a fresh take on an older game. I'll do that occasionally. It's just not going to happen very often. Let me see here. Let me see. Sorry, a lot of people are talking about they're comparing Magic the Gathering with miniature gaming. Fantasy Flight is not going out of business. That is just something that I think could possibly happen in the future, but they're not at this point in time. I know they don't do sleeves anymore, but that's just because Asmodee is using GameGenic. So that's, if you use Fantasy Flight, you just use GameGenic. It's just kind of a sideways thing. My gaming group in the early 2000s kicked the 40K players out. They were coming in early and taking all the tables, and nobody could play anything else. And yes, they were young teenagers. Well, I don't know that I would kick them out, but I would say, you can use these tables. Because there is something about that, right? Just economics of space. That 2 people playing one game will take 2 tables. That's 1 person per table. Then you got 8 other people who are at 2 tables, and there's 4 per table. And so that's 4 to a table, 1 to a table. It's a bad ratio. You got 8 people wanting to play Warhammer, and now you're just taking up 8 tables. So yeah, that could be a problem. It's just best if you play on different nights, frankly. Why did you say you won't play PAX Premier 2nd Edition? Oh, I don't know if I said that. I said I might not get to it. That's all. Any tips on print and play games? No. That is another thing that I just refuse to do for the same reason I don't do miniature games. I don't want to build the game. I want to buy the game. Done. I don't want to cut out all the cards and round the corners and stick them in sleeves and go to Office Max to get something printed out on a big printer. And it's just, so much work. And not to mention, not only is it a lot of work, but if I value my time and add that time plus the amount of money I spend on materials anyway, it's usually more than a board game actually costs. So, I don't know. There's so many great board games out there. You can get some really cheap, too. I would just get a cheap board game over print and play any day of the week. But that's me. So that's why I can't give tips. Tom, I struggle with analysis paralysis, but I'm trying to get better. What would you recommend to do to improve my speed when strategizing? I can't be like the best helper here because I don't really struggle with this myself. But to me, it's just, I think the answer to analysis paralysis is mostly just don't care so much. That's what it is. You just don't care. You're going to lose, maybe because you went faster. That's okay. The less you care about the outcome of the game and just have a good time, I think the faster you'll go. You mentioned being in Korea. What's your favorite place you've ever traveled? Malaysia. Oh, maybe Iceland. Malaysia and Iceland. What place would you love to go you haven't been to yet? The list is very long. I don't have time to go into that now, but there's a lot. Why do so many games have a max 5-player count? It just seems like a weird number when 6 could make a lot more sense. Is it because most games are 4 and tacking on a 5th usually doesn't break it? There's just something about it in that regard. I heard some tales in Germany that there was a lot of 5-player families, and that's one of the reasons. But the fact is, it just seems to work in a lot of games. I can't tell you how many Euro games I played with 5 players, and I thought, 5 is just a little too long. 6 would be even longer. 4 is a good number for a game. 4 is my magic number, probably 3 or 4. You can play almost any game in existence with 3 and 4. That's fantastic. And if you have 2, then you just play a bunch of 2-player games. But yeah, 5 is a tough bird. If we have 5, I might sit there and go, maybe we could play a 2-player and a 3-player. Congratulations on your daughter's marriage. Yes, and it's going to happen more in the future. Woo. Has the pandemic impacted my daughter's wedding in Florida? Well, I'm sure it's impacted it. There's very few people going to be at the wedding. It's going to be in Tampa. So, yeah, there's been some effect. I think it's just family going to be there, mostly. Will Z have any part in the upcoming Marble Mania races? Well, maybe. We'll have to wait and see. Yeah, someone says, has my top 10 Rage games changed any since 2016? Probably, but a lot of our old top 10 lists changed, and I'll be redoing those as time goes by. You'll see. What's my advice for a low-level upstart for recording reviews? Use your phone. And maybe buy a separate little microphone thing. Every time I talk about older games, people complain they can't get them. Yes, every time. You gave the board game book Volume 1 a good review. I just received Volume 2 in the mail. Have you got a chance to look at Volume 2? I have indeed. I have it sitting right over there. I will review it next week, not this week. Steak, pan-fried or barbecue? Pan-fried. Favorite cut of beef? I don't care. Oh, I never play Werewolf, actually. I only ever moderate it. So I think at this point in time, if I was in one of those Werewolf games, I'd be killed really quickly, because if I was a werewolf, the seer's going to check me night one. I feel almost positive of it, and then I'm caught. And if I'm a villager, then the werewolves are going to kill me. So I don't know that I'd want to play. I would die in the first night, almost as a guarantee. And I can't even fault people for doing that. Have you considered doing a live stream of the studio, behind the scenes kind of thing? Live streaming is really, really difficult. It's not just like, oh, we can just do it and it just streams live. And live streaming is also very dangerous, in the sense that you might live stream something you didn't mean to. You know, it's what I mean by that is you might live stream something. Someone might be like, oh, I didn't know we were live, and there I'm sitting there chewing my mouth open, or something like that. And you got to be really cautious. Like when we're live, I'm telling people, hey, we're live. We're live, we're live, we're live. But it's also a difficult process. Live streaming is really challenging. Let's see. I cannot stand putting all my Gloomhaven stuff back in a little box. Yeah, I know. I'm with you. People looking at their phones while you're trying to explain a game is also really annoying. It is. And I get that people need to check their phones. But I'll tell you this. People need to check their phones a lot less than they think they do. And I'm right there with you. I'll be on my phone and I'll sit there and go, wait a minute. Put it down. You don't need to use the phone right now, Tom. And that's the truth of it. You don't need to use the phone all the time. People are like, yeah, but there's what if there's an emergency? Well, that's true. But I've been on I think I've been at a meetup once where there was an emergency. It's always texting, and you're not texting emergency stuff. I get it. I'm not going to go on a grandfather, I want these phones out. They're just there. People are not going to get rid of their phones. But if you're sitting there doing this while I'm teaching the game, I just ignore it. And I teach the game. And then later on, when you say you didn't hear a rule, too bad. And yes, I'm speaking specifically to you, and you know who I am talking to. How is Fuzzy? Do you have him in any of your videos? Well, he shows up in some of my streaming from home stuff. Did I say he? What's wrong with me? She shows up in my streaming from home stuff sometimes. Do you set up a game as you put it away, shuffling cards, sorting tokens, etc.? I don't shuffle the cards, because I will do it again at the beginning of a game anyway. But I do sort out the stuff as much as possible, for sure. Hero Escape was the worst game to get back in a box. I don't know that I ever put it back in the box more than after the first time. I just got a new container and put it all in. What changes to the dice tower that happened due to the current crisis are here to stay, even after the crisis is over? Probably the spectaculars. The Spring Spectacular. Did I not announce that yet? Spring Spectacular is coming, folks. The Summer Spectacular, the probably retitled Fall Spectacular, and the Winter Spectacular. I suspect we will not go to as many conventions in the future. So even when I do come back full in bloom, we'll see. But yeah. What makes Dominion so high in your list? Are there other clean designs like Hero Realms with much better artwork? Yeah, but Hero Realms, first of all, I would argue against the Hero Realms having that much better artwork. It's different. I'm not saying it's better. I'm not saying Dominion artwork's good, but I'd argue that Hero Realms isn't that good. Anyhow, they're different games. Hero Realms is a line of cards you buy from Dominion. You have a set of cards. It's like a puzzle. You figure them out. Still works for me. A couple of my gaming group named their newborn Dice. Is it just me, or is that a bizarre name for a child? Well, it is, but I mean, you can make any name you want. Isn't there someone who has Dice as a middle name? Andrew Dice Clay, isn't there? Like that? But you can name your kid whatever you want. But I always think when I name a kid, how are they going to be made fun of by their peers? And I just realized that time is up here. Alrighty. Fuzzy is our own dice buddy now, too. That is true. We have quite a few things. So if you've seen this here, this new amazing picture, I have it on the back of my computer. That's going to be in our upcoming Kickstarter. And I can tell you the theme of our upcoming Kickstarter. So 2 years ago, we had animals. This past year, we had superhero. This year, it's going to be monsters. You might have already seen one of them in a Dice Tower Werewolf Facebook group, but there's more. You'll see. Alrighty, folks. Well, thanks so much for watching the live Q&A. That is everything that I'm talking about today, everything live for today. There's a few more videos and more videos going up tomorrow, including the start of a new series I'll be doing with Ruby and Violet, two of my daughters. But until next time, I'm Tom Vasel, and you've been watching the Dice Tower live Q&A. See y'all later. Have fun gaming. Where am I? There we go. There should be music here. Do 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 do. Hello, I'm Eric Summer, and you've been watching the Dice.